everybody, Ethan here with Standing Stone, and today's podcast episode is a Q&A. We are here for a Yawa, you ask, we answer, and today we will just be me. I have pulled all of the questions today from YouTube comments. If you are interested in getting a question answered, don't hesitate to throw a comment on this video or any of the videos on our YouTube channel. I would love to be able to pull them into a new episode. Now, before we get started, I do want to mention all of the sponsors. One of the biggest sponsors of everything Standing Stone is patrons. That's you, folks. You can sign up at patreon.com. If you are looking for help, it's patreon.com/Standing Stone Kennels, and you can sign up for as little as $5 a month to be included in the support aspect of things. But then if you want help yourself, there are higher tiers that allow you to reach out to me directly where I can help you with your training sessions. You can send videos to me, you can ask questions, or you can set up video calls where I can be live in training sessions with you or have some face-to-face, if you will, communication where we can talk through a training plan moving forward. All of our dogs at the kennel eat Eukanuba Premium Performance. We've been very happy overall with how our dogs perform on this dog food. It's been a huge change. We've fed a lot of things over the years, and we love the way that our dogs are able to maintain weight and overall look healthy. They eat the food, which surprisingly enough is a thing that runs into issues with some other dog food, but we're very happy with everything Eukanuba. DT Systems. It's the e-collar products that we use, folks. If you followed any of our videos, you know that we utilize collars in training, and DT Systems has been around since the beginning, and we have been with them for as long as I can remember. The newest collar they have out right now, the 5300, I helped them develop over the last few years, and it is amazing. You should be checking this out if you're looking for a new collar or are getting a dog looking for your first collar. Check out the new DT Systems 5300. Last but not least, it is hunting season, and we are in South Dakota chasing prairie grouse. I've been utilizing Kent's Fast Lead 3-inch shells in the number 6 shot. It works really well through the pink gun and have a modified choke. But if you're looking for ammo for this fall, definitely check out Kent Ammunition. Let's go ahead and jump into the first question. All right, on YouTube, you guys probably don't know this, but on our end, there's the ability to search for things. So I just literally typed in a couple prompts of, I want these comments to contain questions and the word hunt. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pull the first one. This one comes from Triple Cough Life. Oof. Guys, this is going to be rough. You've got me to read them, not Kat. I'm sorry. Triple Cough Life. Okay. Could/should I teach point to a controlled flush? I would love your thoughts. I'm new at hunting with a dog. I'm assuming that this means point the bird and then be able to be released to flush the bird. This is a way that we hunt a lot, especially with wild birds, but there are some pros and cons. First and foremost, in the wild bird category, I would strongly recommend this. Your dogs are going to point, birds are going to run, depending on what species you're hunting. And in that process of the pointing and running, and your dog will have the opportunity to relocate, or you can move them up, which would be this asking them to flush zone. And it can be a very effective way to get things done. There are some cons, though, and that just usually falls into the category of safety. Make sure that you and the people that you are hunting with understand where the dog is at and the fact that they could jump up in the air, and that does provide the potential of a slightly more dangerous situation. But if you guys are aware and the people you're hunting with are aware of the dogs, then the pointing and flushing zone is a really, really, really effective way to utilize your dog. Now, if you take that into the other category, which would be your preserves, there are pluses and minuses there too. Some preserved birds are not as good as others, and you may run into the zone where you have a bird that gets caught, okay? That is not the dog's fault. That is the bird's fault, if you will, in a sense of not being a strong enough or healthy enough bird, or the preserve putting the birds too tight for fear of you not being able to find them and complaining, All right. The thing that I like to see with dogs on preserves, I try and ask preserve owners to release the birds so that they fly out naturally in the field, and then expect to find about half, give or take, on an average of the total number of birds that you had put out. And I know that sucks. The birds are expensive, all of those things. I understand that, but you'll be happy that you did, based on the fact that the hunting experience on the preserve will be better. The next piece with that is some of those birds aren't going to perform as well again, but if the dogs are going into flush, it's going to get a little more fire under their belt so that you're not running around chasing the dogs. We actually utilize English cockers in our program to work with pointing dogs that are standing steady to wing shot and fall. So we're not using our short hairs to flush. We utilize a second dog, and it provides kind of a cool experience on the South Texas ranch, El Tesoro. So I hope that helps to answer the question. Let's get into the next one. All right, question number 2 at Terry Arnold BV60T. This might sound dumb, but say you are hunting and ducks start coming in. Is there a certain word that you should use to let them know to watch where the fall happens, or should they just know from gunfire? When we are hunting with dogs in stationary type environments, which would be your duck hunting or dove hunting scenarios, it is going to be something dogs learn very quickly. I don't really feel like there is a cue that should be used or applied or will be necessary to be applied. I think that's ultimately going to a little bit of experience. And I'm saying by a little, literally the second or third duck or dove that comes in, the dogs will put the pieces together and figure out that looking to the sky is where these birds are coming from. And they're going to start spotting them long before you. So if you are working from a steadiness zone, they're going to have the opportunity to be looking and actually mark birds. If your dogs aren't steady, a lot of times they can end up taking off too early, splash into the water, or take off running, and they not necessarily see where the bird was shot and landed, so they don't have their mark. But you can practice a lot of this as well with the different drills and videos that we have out there on drills like walking singles or other marking drills that involve utilizing a helper to throw birds or to throw marks at a distance from you. This teaches the dog ultimately to look out, and some people do use a cue, mark or get your mark, so that the dog is prepared that they should be looking out. But even in that, when we start utilizing someone to throw marks for our dogs, the dogs key in on that very, very, very quickly. They figure out, I need to be looking out. I need to look at this person. Out there is the important thing, and you don't really have to apply a lot else to that. Once they understand the game, which does not take very many reps, they should be looking out, so don't worry about the cues. Great question. All right, question number 3. This comes from at MomWoods8726. I dig it. Yep, where we upland hunt, there are gobs of stickers and seeds. Now, what is this in reference to? It's not necessarily a question, but I thought it was a good one to mention anyway. When we hunt in areas with gobs of stickers and seeds, there's 2 problems that can happen with this. One of which is they can get into your dog's coat or between their toes. Those are the big ones, okay? Couple quick tips of this. If you have that longer haired dog or a longer coated dog, utilizing or carrying with you a comb is a really good way to get those stickers out without having to try and grab them with your fingers and they get all tangled. So you can brush or comb them out fairly easily. Now, the next piece is some folks prefer to utilize boots when they're stickers. Now, there's only a handful of times that I've actually hunted that I went, man, I kind of wish that we had some boots here. And I've talked a lot on other podcasts about how I don't like boots and I don't utilize them on a regular basis, okay? In the times that we have found, I have found some of these areas that are, that I believe she's referring to, or at least I've noticed that there are gobs of stickers. They literally run into an area, and by the time they've got into it, it's almost cartoon-like. They go, I am now stuck in the middle of this giant sticker patch, and my pads are completely covered with stickers, and I don't want to walk out of this because I'm stuck. So I have seen that firsthand, and only in a handful of cases for me specifically. If you are working with a dog and you do hunt in areas with tons of sticker patches like that, this is where utilizing a boot, which you'll have to just try them out. I don't have a recommendation on boots. I have used several of them and I dislike them so much that I don't have a recommendation for you. But try some of them out, find out what works for you if you feel like you truly do need to use them. And ultimately, folks, don't over tighten them and cut off circulation to your dog's paws. That's one of the biggest things that can happen that people overlook. They try and wrap them or tape them into place and they end up applying too much pressure. So keep that in mind. Great question. All right, the next question, this one's very simple, so it won't take very long. But at Fishing and Game Danner 2509 asks, do you have a full guide from puppy to hunting? And the answer to that is yes. We have a guide to our YouTube videos. This puts all of the best versions of all of the videos we created over the years in one place for you. So the course actually is broken out into multiple different types, which would be for versatile dogs, which is any dog that points and retrieves, or retrievers and flushers. So there are 2 separate courses that way. And then if you're not at all interested in the hunting aspect of things, which this specific question is about, and this whole podcast is about, there is also an obedience course and a specifically broken out piece of just the trained retrieve. So we have a handful of courses there that are, like I said, a guide to the YouTube videos. Check them out at Standing Stone Kennels or standingstonesupply.com. All right, this next one is one of my favorites. It is from at Sankie13, Sankie 13. So it says, are y'all training these GSPs for hunting? Have you ever noticed tug-of-war leads to them becoming hard-mouthed with birds? This is a huge thought in the bird dog community, and this is one of the places that we go against the grain. I believe that tug-of-war helps to develop a strong natural hold and a good level of bond in the retrieving aspect of things with you and your puppy. It's a fun game to play, all right? The key with, and the part that I think gets missed the most, is how to actually end that game. What happens to the situation when you have birds and their attempt to play tug-of-war is that they actually get the opportunity to tug away from you. If you ever experience anything like this, all you need to be able to do is grab a hold of the dog's collar, then go ahead and take the bird. And if you aren't applying pressure where you are attempting to pull the bird from the dog's mouth, it can't stimulate the game of, I'm going to try and play tug this away from you. If you do just reach out and try and grab the bird, it could potentially bring back the memories of, I want to play tug-of-war, and then yes, you do have a tug-of-war battle with a bird. But that can happen even if you don't play tug with your dogs ever. If they like birds, they can try to hold on to them when you reach for and grab them. Same thing here, grabbing a hold of the collar so the dog can't actually get away from you and pull against you, and then put your hand on the bird, making sure not to try and rip it out of their mouth, but help to remove it from their mouth. Now, the other side of it is making sure when you're playing tug-of-war with your puppies that you actually end the game. This involves not tugging anymore. Apply that same process of holding onto their collar and taking the bumper from their mouth without playing this tug, and it kind of becomes less fun. When they actually get to pull away from you, it's a fun process. If you just hold on to it and they can't pull away from you, it becomes less exciting or less fun, and they will very naturally just release whatever is in their mouth. And there's going to be occasions or exceptions to this, where you need to try something different. And that's a great opportunity to reach out on Patreon so that we can actually come up with a specific path for you to take with your dog. I can evaluate those, a training session with you live, and then I can coach you through maybe some different things to try based on what your dog is actually doing. So great question. All right, folks, this next one is a little bit long, but bear with me here. At JennyTenny-1. As an owner of 2 labs, I'm cringing watching this, understanding that the accidents happen, but the fact that you have obviously had this happen numerous times and possibly countless, why would hunting be enjoyable to you knowing that your dog is being tortured consistently just to have a hobby? I'm not an anti-hunting person by any means, but dogs are called man's best friend for a reason. Why should you torture your poor baby? My thoughts are, it's not like you have to live off the land, like your family will starve without shooting a few quail tonight. If it was the 1800s and you were a voyager or a settler, it would make more sense to me. Caring about your dog's health and safety should be more important than a sport. Well, I do want to comment on this one specifically because of the fact that it was in regards to a removing porcupine quills video with Muddy. Now, in that specific video, it was actually the first time that I had experienced porcupines with our dogs to that extent. I think in all of the years of hunting our dogs, I have run into 3, maybe 4 total porcupine accidents. Okay? It's not something that happens all the time or countless times, and that includes it's not even happened multiple times to the same dog. We're talking about 4 separate occasions, maybe at a maximum, maybe an extra one, but I don't remember any more than 4 separate occasions with 4 separate dogs. So it does not happen all that often, but it does happen to people on a semi-regular basis, especially in the hunting dog community. So being able to video this and show how you can be dealing with it yourself when you're in a remote location, like we often are when we're hunting. On the flip side of that, it is actually more important, I feel like, to talk about the fact that our dogs need jobs. They're specifically bred to be working dogs, and that work needs to come somewhere. Life is not always the most safe thing, no matter how you look at it. It wouldn't say man's best friend shouldn't live in a urban environment because they might get out of the backyard and get hit by a car. Okay, does that happen every day? No, it does not. But does it happen on occasion? Yes. So should that mean we don't ever allow dogs to live at people's houses? No. It just means that there are sometimes risks that happen, and let's face it, they don't happen all that often. Now, granted, yes, hunting can be semi-dangerous for our dogs. There are risks involved with it. But, folks, they live for it, and they do live to do it with us. So, at this point, I'm going to stick with doing the best that we can to care for our dogs, and that means both their mental health and their physical health, as well as enjoying a pastime like hunting with my dogs is something that I will do for as long as I possibly can. Thanks for the question, and I hope this answer helps. All right, this next question comes from Fiorella Marnata 1608. I don't even know here. Let's go ahead and get into the question. What is the best thing you can do when you live in a rural area where there is random gunfire? Loud, like a rifle, still about an acre away, but it's definitely loud and dogs would absolutely notice it as it's still very loud. If you were to get a puppy raising for a hunting dog, how could you handle this situation since gunfire introductions wouldn't be done exactly this way, but it would have heard it before? Hopefully that makes sense. Any advice is appreciated. I do feel like I understand. You're in a rural environment and you have some neighbors that like to shoot guns. Totally understand. It is one thing that you are going to have to be aware of it, and I feel like even if it is in a zone where you see some apprehension out of your dog, pulling their focus to something else is going to be key. It's important to remember in gunfire situations that gun sensitivity issues are not actually fixed with gunfire, and all we are doing with a gun introduction or a gunfire introduction is building a positive association with the noise. So maybe prepare yourself for the random gunfire to happen by having a fun toy, maybe a tug toy, maybe a retrieving toy, something to pull the dog's attention if that random gunfire happens. You're outside playing in the backyard. Pew, there goes a shot. Your puppy looks at you like, oh my goodness, what was that? The first thing you want to do is try and pull their focus to something else, not coddle them. Don't say, oh, it's okay, puppy, that was just gunfire. That calming, loving voice also sounds very similar to a good dog, oh, good boy. And we don't want, I'm apprehensive to this loud noise I heard to be praised positively. Just think about redirecting their focus to something else. And then ultimately, it could be applied to they will become accustomed to the loud noises and they will completely overlook it, or they'll think, ooh, I heard that noise, and they'll look to you for something fun. Both situations are great, and it may actually help if you are prepared properly with your gunfire introduction long term. I hope that answers the question. If you do have more issues or if something does arise, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, on to the next question. This one comes to us from @Y2180. Do you have any problem with incorporating simple hand signals when they are beginning to do such things as sit and using the clicker? My new GSP pup is due this month. It's been a good 30 years from the last one, and I trained those three the old-fashioned way, and we're hunting lunatics. I'm 70 now. I like what I see with the use of the clicker. It's a great question, and I like to explain it to people on average that whether you think you're doing it or not, most people are providing way more nonverbal cues than they know that they are. We like to utilize verbal cues because we are a speaking community. On average, we verbally communicate with other people if that's possible. And so we try and apply this as normal communication with our dogs, and they're way more in tune with what we're doing. They're going to be reading your body language, and I often challenge folks to spend an entire day not talking to your dog and see how well you can get through life. So that is all just to pull on the fact that most people are providing way more nonverbal cues, and their dogs are really good at figuring out patterns and anticipating what's going on. So whether you were going to try and do it or not, you'll probably be utilizing some form of hand signals, and that is okay. Just try and be aware of what you're doing and wean off of them if possible, just to make sure that the dog does have an understanding when you start to apply cues. Those would be the words like sit, here, whoa, kennel. When you're doing those, eventually get to the point that you can provide nothing from a nonverbal standpoint, and you can use the verbal cue, sit, and they do it, or kennel, and they go kennel on a platform or into a crate. That will prove to you that they do understand the verbal cue aspect of things, and then outside of that, do what's comfortable, just stay consistent with it. I hope that you can get this new pup ready to go, and it can also become a hunting lunatic like your last three. Great question. All right, everybody, this next question from @TS1207-G9Y. I nailed that one. Totally unrelated, but I have a question. Can a 5-year-old poodle pointer be force fetched, trained, or is he too old at this point? He's otherwise a really good hunter. I'm not qualified to do it myself, and I don't think I have the heart to do it myself anyways. Okay, so first and foremost, what he is saying here with force fetch training, we would refer to as a trained retrieve. And for the reason that he expressed in this actual message, I don't have the heart to do it myself. The trained retrieve process is teaching very simply how to pick something up and how to hold something, okay? Those are the two parts of retrieving that we teach through the trained retrieve. And a lot of people say semantics, force fetch, trained retrieve, same thing, right? Well, you're just calling it something different, and I completely disagree with that. When we utilize the term trained retrieve, it helps to put us into a mindset, because we also use things like cue, you've heard me say that already in this podcast, and not command. And we teach and develop, not force and break. This puts us as trainers into the mindset of, I want to help teach, and I want to solve this problem so that I can help my dog to become better. Not, well, they aren't doing it. Dang it. I'm going to force them, and you should be doing this. And when you can separate in your brain, language is powerful. When you can separate in your brain your approach to the process, it puts you in a much better place to help the dog truly be the best dog that they can be. So next, when we talk about the trained retrieve itself, it is not a harsh process. It is something that we break down things as simply as possible to teach dogs to how to do exactly what I just said, which is hold something, and then how to pick it up on cue as well. We do ultimately collar condition that, and there is a stage at the very end of this process that you may run into a point where you say, yes, you are going to do this, but that's no different than recall training or anything else that we have collar conditioned, okay? We need the dogs to fully understand what we're asking for them before we apply collar pressure to that. and then we can utilize collar pressure to build consistency. All right. Now, to the point of it's a 5-year-old dog, can I still actually teach this process to them? The answer to that is yes. There is no such thing as too old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Wrong. You can teach any dog new tricks. The oldest cap that I would say a lot of times is as long as they are alive, they can still learn. Now, that being said, I will acknowledge the fact that older dogs typically are more set in their ways. Let's face it, that's the same thing with people. You get to a point where this is the way you've been doing things and this is the way you know how to do it. And there will be more pushback from an older dog than there would be a younger dog that hasn't developed bad habits. But all you have to do is be able to work through the training, make sure they have a solid understanding, be a little bit patient, and we actually have a course, talked about that earlier in this podcast as well, to help walk you through this process. The best part of that entire thing is to set up video calls with me once a week. I will be able to help give you direction on if you are moving too fast, if you're not moving fast enough, and how to get around some of the bumps in the road. It's one of those things that I feel like the largest training curve, if you will, or the largest learning curve for young trainers or new trainers is the actual train to treat process. Almost every dog goes through it differently. Though the steps are very similar, they'll hit different walls or throw up different walls throughout the process to say, I don't really want to do this, or this isn't as fun as I thought it might be because it's boring. And if you are working through that at the proper pace, a lot of those things go away. So having me with you once a week will help you to be very successful in this process. And I look forward to being able to help you. Thanks for the question. This question comes from us from I'm sorry, guys. This is horrible. I have a 3-year-old Shorthaired that has never been hunted. Is it too late to teach them to hunt birds now? This goes hand in hand with the last question. No such thing as too old, or you can't teach an old dog new tricks. What I would recommend for you is to start with our online training course. Start at the beginning like it's a brand new puppy. The more they know, the faster you will move. So you're not going to follow the timeline. You are going to follow the progression. As you move through that process, you'll get caught up very quickly to where the dog is at from the hunting training aspect of things, as well as filling any potential holes that are there from what you may have missed in early development, or just things that maybe need some refresher because the dog is 3. All of that being said, you definitely can teach your 3-year-old how to hunt birds. Good luck on your journey. Let us know if you have questions. All right, folks, the last one of this episode. It is coming from @tflatter8912. I got that one. If I am hunting grouse, can I use young chickens? It's a great question, and it is a very common question. Sometimes getting birds is a struggle. Though chickens, I don't believe, are going to fall into a category of something that you could teach dogs and it be ultimately beneficial in the long run. I think that you would be better off to try and find some form of game bird, or pigeons kind of fall into a neutral zone, if you will. I feel like they're somewhere between dove, which are very much not upland game, but they are a game bird, and upland game. Ground-dwelling birds, I think, are just slightly different than birds that fly a lot. But all of that being said, you can use one of the other, like pigeon, chucker, quail, pheasants. And if you struggle to get those, you can actually order them at zgamebirds.com. We're not affiliated with them, but I know that it is an option. It's not the cheapest thing in the whole world, but if that specifically doesn't work for you from an ordering standpoint, please reach out to us. We have a lot of connections around the United States, if you are in fact in the United States, but reaching out to local NAVDA or AKC clubs and chapters would be a good option to find somebody that is near you that could help you to get the resources you need to be able to develop your young dog that you're going to hunt grouse with. All of that being said, folks, I hope this was helpful. If you yourself would like your question answered, please throw a comment on any video or this one specifically. We appreciate you guys being here and listening to this episode. I will catch you in the next one. I'm the guy with the pink gun. Peace.